Hello my friends, today we're gonna make a huge and emotional future house drop similar to Brooks in FL Studio. Alright my lovely people, let's start by creating some nice chords. Now let's try to compose a catchy melody. For those of you wondering, yes, this is the melody from my mixing tutorial. Alright my friends, let's start by creating a big and powerful lead. I'm also gonna show you some tricks to make the lead bigger and better. Let's start with the serum layer playing the lead melody. Now let's add some more layers to make the lead fat. It's important to add layers that sound different from one another so they can fill each other out. Guys, we are also gonna add this lead layer with a lot of attack, which we will use as a sort of reverse lead. Now guys, we'll mix the lead. Let's try to make it as big and powerful as we can while still keeping it clean. We'll start with some distortion using Fruity Fast Dist, then an EQ, compression with OTT, another EQ, Soundizer, compression and distortion using Camel Crusher, EQ. I also added a Fruity Phaser and turned the mix down to about 25%. Lastly, I added a Fruity Stereo Shaper which adds some wideness. This my friends is what the lead sounds like without the mixing. And this is with. I'm also gonna add this big reverb and control it with this reverb automation. I'm gonna add this synth sample from my sample pack to fill out this break in the melody. I'm also gonna add a synth shot with some reverb which makes the lead note hit harder. It also fills out that little gap. Now my good men, we will create a fat bass line. But first, I would truly appreciate it if you subscribed and turned on post notifications. Let's start off with this serum layer playing the bass line. Now we'll add some more layers. The key to making a fat future bounce or future house bass line is usually to add a lot of layers. That way it will sound very full. Nice. Now we'll add some mixing effects to try and push the bass to the limits. We're gonna start by mixing the main bass. We'll begin with an EQ, then a Camel Crusher, a second EQ, compression with OTT, distortion with Fruity Fast Dist, EQ, Soundizer, and a final EQ. This is the main bass without the mixing. And this is with. Now let's quickly mix the sub bass. We'll add some distortion, OTT, Soundizer, and an EQ. This is the sub bass without the mixing. And this is with. I added this pitch automation for the bass to make it more interesting. Now my wonderful people, let's create some chords to fill out the drop. Let's start with the serum layer playing the chords. Now let's add some more chord layers. When it came to the mixing, I wanted to make them really dirty and bright without clashing with the lead and bass. I started off with an EQ, then some compression with OTT, some distortion, a Camel Crusher for compression and distortion, another EQ, Soundizer, EQ, and lastly a Fruity Stereo Shaper to make them wider. This is what the chords sound like without the mixing effects. And this is with. This my friends is what the chords and bass sound like together. Let's create this volume automation for both the bass and chords to make them more groovy and bouncy. Nice. Guys, we're also gonna add some harmony chords on top. It's just this simple saw layer playing these harmony notes while being controlled by this cutoff automation. Now lastly we're gonna add some nice drums and effects. Alright guys, that was all of the elements of the drop, but before I show you the result, I would sincerely appreciate it if you went and checked out my sample pack. The link is in the description. Alright boys, here we go. If you liked the video, please be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Love you guys.